Hey guys, hope you're having a good day. Today we're going to dive a little deeper into Telos. After making my last video, the Telos Network reached out and answered a lot of questions and provided me with some more information that I wanted to pass along to you guys. Now, before we begin, I wanted to clear up something from the last video. If you remember, I opened this Medium post from EOS Vancouver called Hello Telos. And at the bottom here, it says, the top 10 holders of EOS own near half of all tokens. And I accepted that at face value in the video without really further inspecting it. And as a user pointed out, that is not actually the truth. And what I had done is pull up this Etherscan page and showed these accounts. However, these accounts are likely exchange accounts. Maybe not all of them, but a large number of them. And as you can see right here, even one of them's labeled cold storage. Here's a Binance wallet. And there's an article from Trust Nodes I found here, and this was just 1 month ago. And basically they said that based on their analysis, their guess for the 7 out of the top 10 holders are Bithumb, OKEX, Huobi, Upbit, Bitfinex, Binance, and block.one. And basically what they did is they looked at the volumes. So many of these accounts are going to be those exchanges. And you could find this on any cryptocurrency out there. And they're going to have a large amount of tokens because they're holding many people's tokens. That's what a custodial account is. So I just wanted to clear that up from this point. So what is Telos? A joint venture between the Telos Foundation and members of the EOS block producers community. And on their website, they say, we combine the blazing fast execution and scalability of EOS IO software with true decentralization that makes DPoS sustainable. Telos will have the most even money supply distribution of any blockchain. This token distribution improves governance so the network is more secure and sustainable. So this is the video I made a few days ago talking about Telos. And as you'll see, the Telos Network came in and answered a ton of questions. So if we scroll down, you'll see that they say, we are currently looking at August for the Telos Network launch. The testnet is working great, but there's still work to do. And when we scroll up, it says, Telos actually does have an active network right now in the form of the Telos testnet with 30 block producers on it at the moment. You can see it running and read about the development stages at testnet.telosfoundation.io. So let's take a quick trip over to that. And you'll see they have a website, and this is the testnet part of the website. And here's all the block producers. Here's their latency, the last block they created, and the number of votes. As we scroll down, they got 27 total BPs at this moment running. And they look like different names than the EOS block producers. But that is actually way more progress than I was expecting. If you remember in my last video, I said I would be amazed if Telos actually created a working blockchain. And here they are with a testnet already. So they are making something happen. Definitely making more happen than the Xenon network. And you'll see they've made 1 million blocks on the testnet already. So not a bad start. It'd be interesting to see how they share their resources. If they're running as both EOS block producers and as a Telos block producer, are they splitting their RAM? Is that allowed? Are they, able to actually fully use the RAM on both networks if they're having devoted RAM or it's shared? Just an interesting side note question there. I can imagine they'll want to make as much profit as they can by running both networks. So it seems like they may end up sharing the RAM, which would not be totally honest as far as the block producers go for EOS. Okay, so let's get back to some more of these comments from the Telos Network on the YouTube channel here. So they also said, to get your Telos tokens, just use your EOS wallet and point it to the Telos chain. There will be updates of Graymass, Simple EOS, and Scatter by this point to accommodate new blockchains. Your public key addresses will be the same, except they will begin with TLOS instead of EOS. You can already see this on our testnet, testnet.telosfoundation.io. Just vote to activate the chain and pick your favorite BPs. Once the network activates, you can use your tokens. never give out your private keys. No one from Telos will ever ask for them. So that's at least legitimate sounding, because if they ask for your private keys, that would instantly be a red flag. They also said, we know we will have to earn people's trust. Be aware we are working hard to do that. And Telos is giving developers the option not to open source their dApps if they don't want to. On EOS, all dApps must be open source according to the current constitution. Also, RAM prices will be lower and more stable on Telos. Also, they said that every EOS wallet will work with Telos. This includes Graymass, who is actually working with Telos to ensure compatibility. And all EOS dApps will run on Telos. However, what comes to mind when I read this is that the factor of network effect, because it's most likely that EOS is going to have the lion's share of network effect. And so, if I was a developer, am I going to want to program on the minor chain or the major chain? Telos has to compete with this factor here. And when new blockchains get created, 99.9% of them are not worth looking into. There's thousands and thousands of altcoins. How many of them actually bring something new to the table? It's not very many. You have something like Monero and it brings some privacy. That's a new use case. You had Bitcoin and then you had Ethereum. Well, Ethereum brought smart contracts. That's a new use case. And I've heard it stated that basically for something to be adopted over something else, generally speaking, you need it to be at least an order of magnitude better in some way. So I would consider that going from Bitcoin to Ethereum was an order of magnitude better. And I would consider that going from Ethereum to EOS is an order of magnitude better. But personally, I do not consider that going from EOS to Telos is an order of magnitude better. So Telos is going to have to innovate markedly to capture a significant portion of the market share. Otherwise, it's really, in my opinion, going to be relegated to Ethereum Classic in contrast to Ethereum. I just can't see it competing. I think they are innovating a few features, and I think they will improve on some things, and they will make things a little better, but I don't think they're going to make things an order of magnitude better. And I believe that's what's required for them to really take over. And also, again, EOS can easily adopt any feature that's significantly better. It's open source. We're just dealing with open source code here. So there's nothing stopping EOS from taking these features. As I said before, I think it's great that there's competition, and I think it will help EOS innovate. And good luck to Telos. We all own some, so it can't hurt. I hope they both do well. And I actually have a couple of questions about how this is all going to go down. First of all, how is Telos going to get funded? Or if they have no plan, if they're just going to leave this open to the community to develop on. Because like I said in my earlier video, there is a huge war chest to compete against for market share and for dApp funding. And I just don't think Telos has a chance. If it has nothing to bring to the table in form of money, how are they going to even compete? And then lastly, I'm actually just curious what Dan thinks about this. I would love to hear a public statement from Dan on his opinion of Telos. In the past, he's said that he's completely open to the idea of competitors, and it is open source. And so I think he probably, if I was to guess at his response, would say that he welcomes it and it's not a problem and it's all fair game, because that's the nature of the open source community. I'd be curious to hear from Dan specifically, if Telos does innovate in some ways that are better, will Dan and block.one be willing to add those features to the EOS platform? And I think a lot of us would like to know the answer to that. All right, guys, and before we go, here is the Telos Foundation GitHub account. You can see that there's not much here. They've forked it from the EOS code. So here's the fork, and then they're creating on it at this point here. So you'll be able to follow any progress they make at this GitHub account. This is github.com/telos-foundation. Lastly, as I said, I found their YouTube channel, and I really recommend you check it out. This is Introducing the Telos Blockchain. So let's end off with watching this video by Douglas Horne of Telos.
Hi, I'm Douglas from GoodBlock. People have been asking us about the new Telos blockchain, and I'm here to give you some answers. So, first of all, what is it? Well, Telos is a brand new blockchain that's based on the EOS software. So everything great about EOS, the fast transactions, the no gas fee, the smart contracts, they'll also be in Telos. Is it an airdrop? It's not really an airdrop because it's going to have its very own blockchain network. But like an airdrop, if you had EOS tokens at the time of the snapshot, then you are just magically going to get Telos tokens too, as soon as we open up our network. Do you have to do anything to get those tokens? Not really, as long as you are on the snapshot. That will just happen. If they are on an exchange like Binance or something like that, we can't actually force any exchange to take them, even though we want to give it to them. So we are working with them. We are doing outreach. We've given them a very simple documented process, how they get those for you. They have to agree to give them to the owners and not just keep them for themselves, things like that. So we're working with them. And our hope is to have every EOS token owner to have their Telos token as soon as possible. You can actually reach out to your exchange and say, hey, we want our Telos, and that would probably help, in fact. Which wallets are going to work? So we intend that every EOS wallet is going to work on Telos. We have built a little toolkit that any wallet maker can use to make sure it all runs well. We're currently working with Graymass and Scatter developers. They are great, and we are making sure that everything is going to work well for the launch. They don't endorse the project, but they are helping us on behalf of their customers. And is this an ICO? It is not an ICO. ICOs are out to raise money. We are not raising any money. We are just launching a new network, and we are giving tokens on the network to you. We think that this is a real advantage over the EOS. There's a lot of problems with EOS that we'll talk about in other videos if you want, but there is no money to be changed hands. If anybody asks you for it, don't give it to them. Definitely don't give out your private keys. We're already working to try and get the new private keys for everybody who had their EOS tokens stolen. We don't want it more. Don't give out your private keys. Don't send money. Anyone who says they're asking for it for Telos is not being truthful, so don't fall for that. But it's going to be a great network. We want to tell you more. Watch more videos. You can subscribe. You can go to our website. You can look at the white paper or some announcements about it. Telos is going to be a great network, and we hope that you get excited about it and check it out more. Are you capping tokens? And we are. We are taking the EOS snapshot and we are capping them at 40,000. So if you had 10 EOS at the snapshot time, you are going to have 10 Telos. If you had 100, you're going to have 100. If you had 25,000, you're going to have 25,000. But if you had 50,000, you're only going to have 40,000 Telos. If you had a million EOS, you're only going to have 40,000 Telos. So why does Telos cap tokens at 40,000 per address? Well, there's a problem on the EOS network in that a very small number of people own a huge amount of the network, and they are able to delegate or vote in the people they want to run it. And that would be fine, except they're voting in people who are running block producers and setting up rules that are possibly not in the best interest for the EOS network. So we think that there's a better way, and that we can get all the great things about EOS software, which is really great actually, and we can fix the token supply problem. So that's why we're capping them. That's the big thing. And we're also going to try and fix a couple other things while we're at it. Okay, so that's why Telos is capping tokens. How did we pick 40,000? Well, we did some math, and we figured out that at 40,000, we touch very, very few accounts. 1,098 actually. That's 0.67% of all the accounts. All the rest will be untouched, it'll be the same. But that's the lowest number we could do that actually fixes the whale problem. Beyond that, the whales just have too much influence still. So that's why 40,000. It's just the sweet spot. And then people ask us, can you ever have more than 40,000 tokens? Yes, 40,000 is the genesis. You can buy more afterwards, it's fine. So can you vote all those tokens? Yes, you can vote any amount of tokens you have. If you buy more than 40,000 tokens, you can vote them all. It's been suggested to us that we could cap voting forever. It's not a good solution because what will happen is people just get another account. It's not worth doing. The capping at the beginning solves the problem. Hi, I'm Douglas from GoodBlock. People have been asking us about the new Telos blockchain, and specifically, how's it going to be for DApp developers? The answer is, it is going to be awesome for DApp developers because everything that you were so excited about when you first heard about EOS, like no gas fees and super fast transactions and side chains and scalability and all that stuff, that is the same in Telos because it's the same software. Both are written on EOS software. Telos has a few changes, but those are about network security and how block producers are rotated and things like that that have nothing to do with how your code works. So write it on EOS, it's going to run on Telos. Write it on for Telos, it's going to run on EOS. You're safe. You can have choice. You can decide which of these blockchains you want to run on based on your other needs. So what would those needs be? Well, one of those might be the need for inexpensive RAM. How are we going to make sure that RAM stays affordable? As you might be aware, EOS is recently fighting through a problem with a lot of speculation on its RAM price, to the point that not too long ago, it was going to take over $20 US to just create a new address on the EOS network, let alone a DApp that needed lots of RAM. It was priced off the network, basically. So people are concerned with that, and they're working to solve that problem. But I want to tell you why that's not going to happen on Telos. So on Telos, we have two really simple tools that we're going to use to stop that. The first is we're going to launch with a low amount of RAM and tie increases to actual utilization. And then the second is we're going to use something called published guidance pricing, which is a real world tool that's used in all kinds of markets with great success. So let's talk about 4 gigs of RAM. That's a lot less than what EOS launched with, which was 64 gigs. How can launching with less stop speculation? You'd think it'd be the other way around. Well, it turns out that when you launch, when you have a certain amount of a scarce resource, the worry for speculators is more of that coming in, right? So when you have 64 gigs, you have to bring in a whole another 64 gigs to dilute that, to half that. And so it makes speculators feel very confident because you're not going to flood in a whole bunch more. When you launch with 4 gigs, there's a ton more. You could launch 8, you could bring in 8, you could bring in 12, you could bring in any amount more, and it makes them very nervous because when you're trying to corner the market on something scarce, the last thing you want is the ability for more to come in easily. In fact, bringing in more RAM is the main way that EOS is looking at solving this problem. We have a lot more power in Telos because we started lower. I don't know why they started at 64. They didn't need it. They've only recently started to use 1 gig of RAM on the whole network. So that was a decision that they could have made differently. They didn't. We think it's advised to just do this simple thing. It's going to have a real powerful effect on discouraging speculation. All right, so what's the other one? Because the other one is really the secret weapon. It's called guidance pricing or published guidance pricing. And what happens is the Telos Foundation has an endowment to buy RAM and give grants and things like that. It's going to have some economists who figure out what is the best price for RAM they think, where it's enough to keep the network going, it's fair to everyone, and it should be stable on its own, if not for speculation. So that price is going to be the published guidance price. Anyone can get that, everyone can see that. And the Telos Foundation will buy RAM up to that price to when it's lower, so it keeps it stabilized when it's lower. And if it gets high, not immediately, but as speculation happens and the price goes up, the Telos Foundation will sell into that. And it basically is a well-documented stabilizing force for scarce resources like RAM. But we have one extra secret weapon, which is this: any developers can buy at the published guidance price. So the reason this speculation is happening really is that developers are worried that maybe they should buy now because they need it later. And speculators are definitely thinking, hey, if we buy it now, we can corner the market and then we can charge any price we want from developers. So what they ultimately need to do is sell it to developers. Now, if the Telos Foundation has already said we will sell at the published guidance price, then to real developers, right? Not to speculators, but to developers who are going to release DApps on our network, we will sell at that price. Then there's no reason for speculation to go much above the published guidance price, because the ultimate customer for this could just buy it at that price, right? So there will be some speculation. Some speculation will happen because within a range, there will be market forces. You really can't stop that. It's not healthy to completely try and stop that. But what's happening on EOS is there's a tool that encourages speculation and prices to rise. That's called the banker model. And there's no offsetting tool to discourage it. Which is what we're introducing. So now there's two market forces that can sort of be controlled for stabilization. Stable RAM price is much better. And if you're a DApp developer and you're saying, okay, well we're 3 months away from launching our DApp. Should we buy a bunch of this resource that we don't need now, which is actually a problem, right? Because it takes it up from somebody else. Or should we just trust the fact that the Telos Foundation has said we can buy it for at least this price? So maybe we'll buy it for more, maybe a little more or a little less right now, but down the road, we're never gonna have to pay more than this published guidance price. That essentially discourages any kind of wild speculation, and it's a great solution, actually. Okay, so that's how Telos is going to handle RAM pricing and to discourage speculation and to help it keep stabilized without some crazy market that limited market. It's going to still work with market forces, but it's going to work. And we know it's going to work because it's been working for decades in all kinds of real world markets like bond markets. So that's how we're going to handle it. We will allow you to have non-open source software on the network. So here's the thing. According to the current constitution of EOS, all software run on the network must be open source. Telos rejects that. Now they're trying to do a referendum and that may change, but right now, that's the constitution. You are signing up for that. So you are going to open source your software if you deploy it on EOS. You have signed that contract. By deploying it, you have open sourced it. I don't think that's developer friendly. And at Telos, we have stricken that from the constitution. And if you want to deploy software that is proprietary, you can. If people don't want to use proprietary software, they don't have to, but you don't absolutely have to open source it to get on. So anyway, those are some of the things about Telos for developers. And I really hope that you find this helpful. I hope that you read more. Telos is really exciting blockchain project. We'll have more videos, and especially the one where I talk about RAM. You can go to the website, read the white paper, lots of things you can do. Get on Telegram, looking more into Telos, especially for DApp developers. It is fantastic. Thanks for watching.